Hello, everybody. Daniel Johnson from the Venza Dutch office. I'm not in the Dutch office today. I'm at home because it is evening time here in the Netherlands. But it is not only evening time, it is webinar time, and we're going to have a conversation about social engineering. Leading the conversation, the presentation is Kyle Boltwood from our state, from our Roswell office, based out of the Roswell office. So Kyle is going to present some material, but before we get to it, let's find out who our industry experts are here. These gentlemen are here to keep us honest, make sure that what we're sharing resonates with other hoteliers. So let's find out who's with us. Why don't we start with you, John? Do you mind telling a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's John Burkard. I'm the Vice President of IT Security and Compliance with Playa Hotels and Resorts. We own and operate and manage all-inclusive properties in Mexico, the Dominican Republic, and Jamaica. We're US-based, publicly traded, have roughly 22 properties currently, about 8,300 rooms, and a little over 10,000 employees.
Fantastic. John, you're a busy man, and we really appreciate you taking time for
No problem.
this important information with the rest of the industry. So very appreciative of you being here. Rick, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yes, hi, good afternoon. My name is Rick Martin. I'm a Director of Operations with Olympia Hotel Management. We are also a US-based hotel management company, and we own and operate 28 hotels throughout the US. We don't have anything internationally right now. We have close to 1,500 employees, and my role also is part of our learning management system and rolling out the Venza training. I work closely with the properties on cybersecurity and all of our InfoSec training throughout the year.
So before we get into it, so glad, just both John and Rick, thank you both for taking time. I'm repeating myself, I know, but we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. But I'm just curious, it didn't take a lot of prodding to talk about social engineering. Can just off the top of the dome, what was the motivation for you guys to even join a webinar on this subject? Is this something that is stirring in your head, and is it a fear that's out there, or is it a remote thing to you guys? John, you mind,
Sure.
What's your relationship to the topic?
Yeah, so obviously anything IT security related I'm involved in. I try to attend these webinars when you guys put them on. It's always good to hear from peers in the industry about the issues they're seeing and solutions they're putting in place to try to address the issues. Plus, I think I've been asked fairly recently and wasn't able to participate, so I figured I was due again.
Okay, we guilted you into it. That's that. Whatever.
No guilt.
Very great. Rick, the topic of social engineering. I mean, what's is it on your mind? Is it on the mind of your peers? What prompted you to join?
For me, really the term social engineering, it used to be cyber attacks, and you would think of that as a specific mechanism that people were trying to breach your systems. But today it is all about this social engineering or manipulation. And everybody is just so busy, things are going on. You have a lot of employees who are really trying to focus on taking care of the guests and doing the best that they can. And even as a company like ours that feels like they do a really good job of phishing campaigns and a number of proactive approaches towards cybersecurity, we're still susceptible to these ever-changing tactics that are coming out. And it's absolutely amazing. And myself personally, my daughter was a recent victim and a completely new way of getting someone, and it was through a job company, a job placement agency that really got her. So they're just getting much trickier, more sophisticated. It's no longer the foreigner calling up and saying, you know, I'm trying to get access, I'm looking for this, or send me $10,000 because I need, you know, a bus.
Yeah.
It is something that is now getting very specific to our industry. They know more about our industry, and it is absolutely a manipulation of, you know, our psyche, I guess. They really want to get in and try and figure out how they can breach your system and you personally.
Yeah, yeah. So you're touching on kind of the using hospitality of hospitality people against them. Indeed, something else you said that I think is fascinating, referencing social engineering. But use the term manipulation, which is I think really apt, because it does kind of. I made a post a few when we were talking about this upcoming webinar, and I referenced how being social or being in engineering in the past used to be, you know, study hard in your grades, you'll become an engineer, or you know, behave yourself, learn how to be social with the other kids. These are things that you wanted to be, but now social engineering, when you take those things together, it's just an altogether different thing and very negative thing. So let's find out. You referenced manipulation. Let's go right into what Kyle has prepared for us, and look at right off the top of it. You've got social engineering, and just so you're aware, Sean, we can see your mouse moving around. We see the one pager, and so that would probably be best if we just continue to see that, Sean, on doing production work for us. So, Kyle, what is social engineering? What do you got for us?
Well, social engineering, what it is, it's an attempt to essentially trick employees. Like you said, Rick, it is, you know, manipulating. We're tricking employees into giving out sensitive information through the guise of, you know, legitimate communications or behaviors. And, you know, it's advancing all the time. As you said, it used to be like a foreigner making a phone call asking for $10,000. Now you've got phishing, you got spear phishing, where it's honing in on a single individual because they have access to certain items. Whaling, going after the top guys, smishing, vishing, impersonation, and of course pretexting. Pretexting is something that's really been occurring, and impersonation is actually something that's had an effective rate lately, and we saw lately in the news.
So these are some sound almost silly terms, but when you're talking smishing and vishing, I think everybody knows what phishing is, but what's the distinction between smishing and vishing?
Okay, so smishing is a form, it utilizes mobile phones, so like an SMS message. Vishing is when you're utilizing a phone call or leaving a voicemail. That way, you're leaving a voicemail, making it sound urgent, getting them to call back, and before you know it, you're talking to the wrong person, giving out the wrong information.
Okay. Rick brought up the the attempts for the younger generation. My mother is a neighbor. My mother is an elderly lady, and I think she would be offended if I referenced her as an elderly lady, but she's in her late 80s. But she had a neighbor friend, also a senior, that is being attacked. So it's individual people, but it's also for some pretty large companies too, right, Kyle, that have been attacked. So businesses.
That's true. You know, we're seeing about 82% of attacks they're resulting from human error. So whether they're clicking on the phishing links, or they're failing to follow the standards, just a simple negligence because they think they have it down packed, they know what's going on. And the result of that is a compromised business email. And when that occurs, you're seeing costs that are truly staggering. IBM's research last year showed that there's in the hospitality industry alone, you're looking at about $3 million in losses for a breach, for a data breach. And that doesn't include the reputational losses that come along with that. You know, your brand image and how the consumers view that going forward. And some of the recent major attacks that we saw earlier this month was Marriott hotels. They came out in the first week of July and mentioned that, you know, they had a threat actor tricked one of their associates into providing access to a computer. And they were able to take PII from 400 consumers. So that can be highly expensive, and it's something that we need to be more aware of and preventative.
So Kyle, when you're talking about all the different types of different, you know, techniques and all the fancy names, you referenced impressions or
Impersonation.
Impersonations. Okay, I'm thinking Rich Little skit, but no, yes, impersonations that they're doing in our industry. Now, I know anecdotally of some examples of people reaching out as being PMS vendors or POS vendors, and they know about the system. And so, you know, Kyle just brought up impersonations. Rick, John, have you guys heard? And we want to keep in as you don't have to reveal. You can say, you know, I'm speaking from about a friend, but keeping you know, stories innocent, obviously, identities, keeping it confidential. But anecdotally, have you heard of others in the industry having these types of attacks where they're calling up and saying, I'm a caterer and I need this information, or I'm working, you know, somebody's working with Oracle or another major POS provider type thing?
Definitely. You know, I can think of two examples recently that I've heard about that have actually been very targeted, and they're reaching after the night audit staff. They're calling up, and the guys that they're calling from property support. And in a couple of examples, they're getting very specific. So I'm following up on a case, or I'm following up on a case on computer number 2. Well, how many people name their computers number 1, number 2, or the front desk agent looks at it as computer number 1 or computer number 2? Already, this person knows everything about my property, therefore he must be real. And they are trying to trick people into getting access to the system. In some cases, we have people who actually know the property management system. I've heard of some who knew how to get into the property management system, and within a matter of minutes processed fraudulent credit card refunds. And fortunately, you know, they go through a VAT process and those sorts of things, so didn't have any large major damages. But can you just imagine if that wasn't caught, you know, during that, you know, batch process? But they were very specific. They knew how to operate the property management system, and they were easily able to trick somebody, because everybody knows in the hotel industry, there's a computer that has an issue at all times, right? Whether it be user error or whatever. So getting a call from support saying they're following up on a call is common practice.
Yeah. And it's no surprise that they would reach out during the night audit or during the night shift. There's going to be maybe less oversight, but it also is a time when you have maintenance on systems, and so it's more expected that you may have somebody from the supplier, from the software supplier. Interesting. What Rick's sharing, does this resonate with you? I mean, is this your experience as well?
I think on our, you know, in the instances I'm familiar with, it tends to be more kind of starting on the phishing side as opposed to the vishing or the smishing. Haven't really heard of a lot of cases, you know, directly impacting us where it was a call or something of that like, but definitely on the you know, phishing email side, yeah, plenty of you know, experience there.
Yeah, and they're getting more and more sophisticated. It's not just the Nigerian prince with you know, give me your information so I can send you $10,000.
Well, And,
they're real sophisticated stuff.
and to Rick's point, they have a certain level of knowledge that they've been able to glean that lets them come in and appear to be legitimate.
Yeah. Understand the systems, understand maybe the season. I would imagine you've got a lot of destination weddings in some of your locations, John, right? So it's wedding season. Excursions. We do know of one hotel group that had a vendor reach out. They had done enough research to find who within the organization was okaying the purchase orders to excursion vendors, and reach out to that person and said the criminal reached out to that person and said, we have changed our banking details. This is now our new bank account, and 60,000 euros was gone in an instant. As well as they said, oh, as long as I'm reaching out to you, here's the information on all the guests that are going on the excursion. So it was a especially bad situation. So, all right, so let's talk about these trends then, Kyle. What else? On the bulleted list, you've got the SMS attacks, but also work from home tools. What's that about? How has that added a layer, a wrinkle in this situation?
So once the pandemic hit, a lot of people started going remote. A lot of people started working from home, and that opened up a floodgate, opened up a massive opportunity for social engineering. You have tools such as Zoom, Dropbox, Adobe, all these items that are, susceptible to social engineering, especially items such as Adobe and Dropbox. You're seeing examples with Dropbox where somebody will get a document that says, there's a sense of urgency to this, download this document, and before you know it, you've downloaded a document that was claimed confidential, and as soon as you open it, you've got issues galore, whether it's pulling information out, whether it's outsourcing it, or placing a virus onto the to that network. There's a lot of issues, and you're seeing that more common, especially also with Microsoft applications. A lot of people use Microsoft, but it's not invincible. You see issues with their problems as well. But Dropbox and Adobe software are definitely out there with their issues as far as downloading affected documents or other items such as that.
So John and Rick, on the subject of work from home and the tools, how equipped were you guys for that shift? Did you have to realize a shift to having more people work from home? Are you operating from as much as you can, you feel comfortable sharing with a hybrid workplace? Is that happening in your companies? And if so, what adjustments have you made for security against social engineering? John, you want to?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. So obviously, like many companies, when COVID first hit, we ended up moving to a remote model, closed our offices, closed our properties for anywhere from 3 to 6 months, and the impact in the U.S. Was fairly slight. I mean, we already had laptops for every user. We had equipment leaving the premises in terms of monitors and other devices, but everybody had laptops anyway.
Okay.
We had VPN connectivity. The bigger impact for us, though, would be in our regional locations and our hotel management staff who were staying on the payroll during that shutdown period. They all shifted to a work from home model. We weren't geared towards having, a large remote workforce at the property level or even in our regional processing centers. So that meant, several hundred people who now were working remotely who, in a normal time wouldn't be. So
Yeah.
so there was a big adjustment and a big load on our IT teams in those regions.
Yeah, that's enough to turn a guy gray with all those.
I
Yeah.
had a good head start already, but
Rick, how about you with the work from home, the shift? Did you make a shift, and what are some security measures that you took into consideration, if so?
We did make a shift. However, we're a relatively small corporate or home office. You know, we like to think of ourselves as a home office. We're more of a support mechanism for the properties versus the corporate office. But you know, we do travel frequently to our properties, so we are already fairly accustomed to being able to do some remote work. But we did close the offices, similar to John. And people were able to work from home. So it wasn't much of a shift, but we certainly did see, you know, a lot more of that. We're now back into this hybrid working environment, I think, like many people are, where it's a lot of the people have returned to the office. Some people it makes more sense to stay at home. But, you know, using platforms such as Zoom or GoToMeeting, those sorts of things, we've always tried to stay as secure as possible and making sure that you're using the passcodes to ensure that you aren't getting people just randomly joining meetings. And I feel like our teams do a fairly good job. We've been, you know, our owner, many people throughout the company get emails from our owner every day saying the updated bank account and quick, go get him some money. And those things have been happening on a regular basis. So it's something, unfortunately, that you see. My human resources team actually recently got an email supposedly from me asking to change my direct deposit. So it's happening. Obviously, I'm somebody now. I'm big in the company that somebody's trying to steal my identity.
I guess.
But it is, you know, those things. I haven't seen anything shift necessarily as a result of the hybrid environment. Fortunately for us.
I guess I have to appreciate your looking at the bright side. If somebody's whaling you, if you've been a target specifically, they must think you're pretty important. That's pretty cool. That's one way to look at least the bright side of things. So I was kind of leading the witness here. So we were talking about, you know, efforts that you've made with work from home and some of these new trends. So Kyle, tell us about some risk mitigation approaches then, things that are, and it's probably going to be no surprise coming from Venza. We're talking about awareness and training, but, you know, talk about some risk mitigation techniques.
Well, realistically, training alone, it's not sufficient enough nowadays. It's got to be really reinforced with a strong security culture within the organization itself. And that begins from the top down and really includes all levels of the organization, whether it is HR, whether it is IT, whether it is, you know, your front line on the properties. It needs to be reinforced and hammered home that, you know, if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't look right, ask a question. Ask a question, talk to somebody before you just hand out information. And you know that when you get data protection vendors such as us, you're going to get your assessments and you're going to get the training and the testing. And you know, for John, he sees a lot more phishing. You're going to get those phishing simulations to help kind of teach and coach what to look for and see those signs. But again, like we've talked about, you know, the social engineering is constantly adapting, it's evolving, and as technology advances, so do these cyber criminals. They're going to keep trying to keep up, and they're going to keep trying to pry their way in. So it really comes down to ensuring you're getting a good, strong security culture in there, making sure you're doing your training, making sure, you know, you're paying attention, really paying attention, and that goes from top to bottom. So
So the paying attention also, you know, we in the security circles, we hear about monitor fatigue, log monitoring fatigue, and Is that something that you guys are also concerned about? I mean, are you able to stay on top, Rick and John, on, all of these inputs? Any logs referencing data exfiltration, anomalous activity on your network? I mean, is that part of your tool kit for data security?
We have a partner that we partner with that takes care of a lot of that. They're the experts that certainly understand a lot more of how our structure is built.
Yeah.
But to Kyle's point about risks, for us, it's more, the industry was probably hit the most, this industry, hospitality industry, from an employee perspective. So turnover is a large issue, and there's not a ton of hospitality seasoned professionals out there coming into every job application. So you're trying to create this new hospitality employee. So building the gap between when they actually took the information security training and when they actually started the job or got on a computer. So we've instituted a document, if you will, and more of a training session in between. It's like, I'm giving you this computer login and this passcode, and here are the responsibilities and what it means, and almost a brief overview of what the potential risks are if they click on an email.
Yeah.
If it looks like it could be too good to be true, don't click on it and go get some help.
That's part of building that. That's part of building that security culture, and that's it's key, because like you said, there is major turnover in hospitality, and it's hard to keep these guys up to date and aware. Like, they're coming in, and second, third day there could be a phishing attempt.
Yeah.
And I mean, the security culture is huge right now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. John, are you any thoughts?
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer in the human firewall, but anything we can do to reduce what gets to that human firewall is critical. So I would say one of the best investments we've made is in email security software to drastically reduce the amount that gets to the end user, right? The tools we're using include your basic email security that's looking at the MX records of the sending domain, and for the typical scams, but also kind of an AI driven layer on top of that looks at the content of the messages to kind of suss out those impersonation attempts, those scams, and then the generic phishing messages. So I'd say that does a good job for us of filtering out, probably 90% plus of what's incoming, to our email users. But, it's that remaining amount that, where the risk really lies for us, because they're good enough to bypass the filtering that's being done. And, at the end of the day, it just takes that one person clicking on the link or responding to the email, to cause the issues. The other thing I've seen is that it's not just on our end, it's the people we work with. And, a couple of cases that I've seen, they're targeting sales folks who tend to be a little too trusting at times in terms of, their communications with others, as well as, instances where we were doing major construction and where the big dollar amounts at risk, right? If you've got a couple $100 million project that's being worked on, that means major sums of money are moving out each and every week.
Sure.
And the folks who are really good at this are going to target those opportunities.
Absolutely. There's money moving around, and easily, not easily, but potentially might be looked past. So we're halfway, or we're not halfway. We're halfway through the hour. our time is wrapping up, but Kyle has one little, if you gentlemen have a couple more moments, just if you want to touch on the topic of remediation, Kyle, to wrap up your prepared statements here.
Remediation wise, like I bolted there, the emergency plan, credential lockdowns, and having an insurance. With social engineering constantly progressing and becoming more effective, it's crucial to have some sort of way to react to it, whether it's like I mentioned, locking down credentials, getting them absolutely pulled down so nobody can get in, get out, removing compromised hardware, isolating the network that's been affected. Those items are so important to do, so that way that spread or that leak of data doesn't continue to go into other areas of the business and cause even more issues. Cybersecurity insurance is also key. So when it does come time, if there is an audit, if there are fines or there are fees, you have something to help alleviate some of that liability financially at the end of the day. But yes, I think it's highly important to speak with managers, to speak with your front-end employees about the emergency plan. If something comes up on your computer, if you click on something and this is what it does on the screen, this is what you do, this is what you don't touch, you don't turn it off, you don't do this, ensure that IT has a way that they're training them, ensure that the data protection vendor that you're utilizing has given you a source to train them on what to do. It's important, it's imperative, when it's not just for the front line, it's for all departments, all the way to the top. So it's just the reality we live in the society we're in today. So
yeah, challenges abound. On that subject of cybersecurity insurance, I just wanted to mention for those that are joining the webinar or watching, we did have a webinar on the subject of cybersecurity insurance. It seems to be an evolving topic. It's sort of something on the periphery, and it's become more ubiquitous in the industry. And that too is kind of a moving target, with more policies being written and premiums expected to go up considerably. And the expectations from the brokers, from the providers, that organizations have a complete data protection program in place, and a lot of the restrictions on how they pay out are even more severe. So that was a webinar that we did from the high-tech trade show floor, and it was recorded, and we can make that link available. Well, we are 5 minutes over, and John and Rick, you guys are so gracious with your time. We thank you for your input, and hopefully you kept us honest here. I don't know, I see a little chat message. Is this if there are any questions, because we are over time? Gentlemen, if we have one question, you gentlemen, time for one.
Any recommendations on how often should social engineering tests be done? I don't know, is there a test?
Yeah, if you like testing, simulation, training. Rick or John, how frequent? We talked about staff turnover. How frequent do you have? Is something scheduled, or is it something like, man, it feels like about time, or what is your frequency?
In our case, we do, actually, we're in the midst of our company-wide annual recertification for information security training. But, obviously in the industry, there's a lot of turnover, at the properties. Any new employees have to go through, the initial training, within, I think, 30 days of their hire. And then we're doing reminders throughout the year. Obviously, we're doing phishing campaigns through our program with Venza, but we're also, sending out reminders on a regular basis during the year of what to look for when it comes to the threats that are out there.
Yeah. Okay. Rick, any kind of best practices for frequency?
Like John, we, have a 30-day to get new employees through the training. I run it with our program about 5 phishing campaigns a year, but my earlier comment on staff turnover, it's, getting something in place to communicate to staff. These criminals are getting a lot more sophisticated, and I don't know that you can do it too many times. I don't think there's too many tests you can run or too much you can talk about the topic. It needs to be at top of the conversation.
That's
this
a great
is not
point.
an invest or ask situation. This is ongoing. It's a culture of awareness is like a garden. You've got to be out there weeding all the time. Yes. Well, thank you again for your input, Kyle. Thank you for preparing this this webinar, and everybody out there. Thank you so much for attending yet another Venza hospitality webinar. We will have information on the upcoming webinar coming up pretty soon. I think we've got a pretty full schedule for the rest of the year of webinars. So we'll make sure we keep you informed.
Very good.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Everybody.
Yeah.